The Bible did not begin with the angel and demon universe most people imagine. That world was built slowly from messengers, heavenly courts, rebel watchers, desert scrolls, exorcism prayers, and centuries of apocalyptic fear. Ask most people to picture angels and demons, and the scene arrives instantly. Wings above, horns below, heaven on one side, hell on the other, a war that feels ancient, simple, and complete. But when you read the older text carefully, that finished world is not there at the beginning. The Hebrew Bible has messengers from God, heavenly beings, throne creatures, spirits, accusers, and strange figures that do not fit modern categories cleanly. Some are terrifying, some are loyal, some are ambiguous. What it does not give us at first is the tidy universe of angels versus demons that later religion, art, preaching, and folklore made familiar. That universe had to develop. This episode is not about proving or disproving spirits, it is about history. Where did the language come from? How did messengers become angels? How did hostile spirits become demons? How did an adversary become Satan, the cosmic opponent? And why did a story about fallen heavenly beings become so important to people trying to explain evil? The answer is not one book. It is a chain of layers. Hebrew Bible, Second Temple Jewish apocalyptic writing, the Book of Enoch, Dead Sea Scrolls, New Testament exorcism stories, later Christian and Jewish interpretation. The familiar world is real as tradition, but its origins are stranger, slower, and more layered than the image in our heads. The first thing to strip away is the wings. In many biblical contexts, the Hebrew word often translated as angel means messenger. The same basic idea can describe a human messenger or a divine one. The job comes before the category. A messenger is sent. A messenger speaks for another authority. A messenger arrives at a threshold between one world and another. That is why some early angel stories do not feel like modern angel stories. A figure appears at a tent, a road, a field, or a gate. Sometimes the visitor sounds like a messenger. Sometimes the visitor seems to carry the presence of God so directly that the boundary becomes hard to separate. The point is not that ancient writers were confused. The point is that they were working with a different imagination of agency. A messenger could be distinct and yet speak with the authority of the one who sent him. This is a long way from the sentimental image of gentle winged guardians. Many biblical messengers frighten people. Their first words are often a command not to be afraid. The encounter is not cute, it is an interruption. The messenger crosses from the unseen into the visible. He announces birth, judgment, rescue, command, or warning. He is not mainly decoration. He is a delivery system for divine action. That is the first origin layer, not a species with feathers, but a function. Before angels became a whole visual world, they were messengers standing at the edge of human life. The second layer is the heavenly court. Several biblical texts imagine God surrounded by heavenly beings. Sometimes the scene feels like a throne room. Sometimes it feels like a council. The language can include sons of God, holy ones, hosts of heaven, cherubim, seraphim, and other figures whose roles are not identical. This matters because later people often flatten all heavenly beings into one word, angels. But the older picture is more varied. Cherubim are not chubby babies. In ancient Near Eastern visual culture, throne guardians could be hybrid, powerful, and dangerous. Seraphim in Isaiah's throne vision are fiery, calling out in the presence of holiness. The host of heaven can sound like an army or a cosmic assembly. The older imagination is not soft. Heaven is ordered, hierarchical, and overwhelming. It has servants, attendants, guards, messengers, and voices. The unseen realm is pictured through royal and temple language because those were the strongest images of authority ancient people had. This also means that angel language grew out of politics and worship, not only private spirituality. Heaven was imagined as a court more just than earthly courts, a throne higher than earthly thrones, an order deeper than human disorder. That courtly world becomes important later. Once heaven is imagined as populated and structured, the question follows naturally. What happens when members of that order rebel, accuse, or abandon their place? The answer will not appear all at once, but the stage is being built. Modern readers often open the Bible expecting Satan to appear immediately as the devil they already know. The older textual picture is more complicated. In some Hebrew Bible contexts, the word Satan can mean an adversary or accuser. It can describe opposition. In the book of Job, the figure often called the Satan appears in a heavenly court scene. He challenges Job's righteousness. He is dangerous. But the scene is not yet the full later picture of an independent ruler of evil locked in equal combat with God. That distinction matters. The idea of Satan develops over time. By the Second Temple period, and into the New Testament world, language about Satan, the devil, Belial, evil spirits, and cosmic opposition becomes more charged. The adversary becomes less like a role inside a court and more like a personal enemy of God's people. This does not mean later readers invented everything from nothing. They reread older language under new pressure. Empire, persecution, internal conflict, apocalyptic expectation, and the problem of evil all intensified the need for a more focused enemy. When the world feels morally broken, people ask, who is behind this? Why do the righteous suffer? Why does violence seem organized? Why does evil feel bigger than individual bad choices? The Satan tradition grows inside those questions. The guardrail is important. Satan is not identical in every biblical layer. The adversary language has a history. If we collapse that history, we lose the most interesting part of the story. Then comes one of the most explosive expansions in ancient Jewish literature. The Watchers. Genesis gives a short and difficult passage about the sons of God, the daughters of humans, and the Nephilim. The text moves quickly. It does not explain everything. It leaves readers standing in front of a locked door. The Book of Enoch opens that door. In the section often called the Book of the Watchers, heavenly beings descend, bind themselves by an oath, take human women, and teach forbidden knowledge. The story includes weapons, cosmetics, enchantments, signs in the sky, and other arts that become dangerous in human hands. This is not just a monster story, it is an origin story for corruption. The Watchers were meant to watch, instead they cross a boundary. Knowledge arrives without wisdom. Power arrives without moral order. Their offspring, the giants, become signs of a world thrown out of balance. For later angel and demon traditions, this is crucial. Enoch gives cosmic evil a genealogy. It tells readers that violence did not spread only because humans made one bad decision. It spread because heaven's order was violated, and the damage fell onto the earth. That is why the Watcher's story survived so powerfully. It explains evil as a breach between realms. It makes the invisible world responsible to moral law. And it gives later readers a way to imagine fallen heavenly beings before the later devil-centered universe had fully hardened. The word demon carries a long history, and it does not mean the same thing in every ancient culture. In Greek, daimon could mean a spirit or divine power, not always evil. In later Jewish and Christian usage, demons become hostile spirits that afflict, deceive, possess, and oppose God. The Enochic tradition gives one influential explanation for where such spirits came from. After the giants die, their spirits do not simply vanish. In Enochic material, the dead giants become evil spirits on the earth. They are not exactly angels. They are not ordinary humans. They are the violent afterlife of a forbidden mixing. That idea matters because it turns demons into aftermath. The demons are what remains when a broken pre-flood world leaves traces behind. They are violence without bodies, appetite without proper place, disorder still moving through the human world. This is one stream, not the only ancient way to imagine hostile spirits. The wider ancient Near Eastern and Mediterranean world had many languages for dangerous beings, disease spirits, night terrors, protective rituals, and invisible threats. But the Enochic version became especially important for readers shaped by Genesis, apocalyptic expectation, and the flood story. Now, demons are not just random scary beings. They are connected to a moral history. That is a major step toward the later universe. Angels can fall. Fallen beings can corrupt the earth. Their offspring can become monstrous. Their spirits can remain as hostile powers. The map is getting darker and more complete. The Dead Sea Scrolls show how intense this world had become before and around the time of early Christianity. At Qumran, we find texts filled with light and darkness, truth and deceit, holy angels and hostile spirits. The name Belial appears as a figure of wickedness and opposition. Some texts speak as if human life is caught in a conflict larger than ordinary politics. This is not the cartoon version of heaven and hell. It is a disciplined apocalyptic worldview. The community saw itself as living near the edge of judgment. History was not neutral. Spirits, angels, law, purity, calendar, and community identity all belong to the same struggle. There are also texts connected with protection and exorcistic traditions. One famous Dead Sea Scroll, often called 11Q11 or the Apocryphal Psalms, preserves psalm material associated with protection against demons and harmful spirits. Whether we call this magic, prayer, ritual, or exorcism depends on the category we bring to it, but the point is clear. Invisible hostility was treated as a real problem requiring sacred language. That gives us another origin layer. By this period, angels and demons are not only ideas for storytelling, they are part of lived religious practice. People pray against hostile spirits. They imagine angelic help. They name cosmic enemies. They organize the world into hidden loyalties. The later angel-demon universe is no longer just a mythic backstory. It is becoming a daily map for fear, identity, and hope. When the New Testament opens, demons are everywhere compared with many earlier biblical texts. The Gospels do not pause to explain the entire system from scratch. They assume a world where unclean spirits afflict people, where exorcism is meaningful, where Satan can be described as a tempter and opponent, and where the arrival of God's kingdom confronts invisible powers. That is important. The New Testament did not invent this world out of thin air. It inherited a charged Second Temple environment where angels, demons, Satan, Belial, spirits, judgment, and cosmic conflict were already active categories. Jesus' exorcisms make sense inside that world. They are not side miracles. They are signs that a stronger authority has arrived. If hostile spirits represent disorder, oppression, and the old age's grip on human bodies, then casting them out becomes a preview of cosmic repair. Pauline language also speaks of rulers, authorities, powers, and spiritual conflict. Again, we should be careful not to force every phrase into a later medieval map. But the direction is clear. Evil is no longer only a human behavior problem. It is also imagined as a network of powers. This is where the familiar universe begins to feel familiar. Angels serve. Demons afflict. Satan tempts and opposes. The kingdom of God confronts more than human enemies. The hidden world presses directly into bodies, cities, communities, and history. The images most people carry are later than the origins. Wings, halos, red demons, horned devils, armies of light and darkness, heaven above and hell below. These images gather many older threads and make them visually simple. Art is powerful because it compresses. It turns layered textual history into one picture the mind can keep. But compression can mislead. If every heavenly being becomes a winged angel, we miss the messengers, throne creatures, hosts, holy ones, and court scenes. If every hostile spirit becomes a demon from hell, we miss older languages of impurity, disease, accusation, restless spirits, and cosmic disorder. If Satan is read backward into every adversary, we miss the development from accuser language to cosmic opponent. This does not make the later tradition fake. Traditions grow by interpretation. Communities inherit fragments and arrange them into systems. Preachers, artists, monks, Rabbis, translators, and storytellers all helped give the invisible world a more stable shape. The problem comes when we mistake the final painting for the first sketch. The real origins are not clean. They are layered, debated, and sometimes contradictory. Angels and demons became familiar because generations kept using older texts to answer new fears. The images hardened. The questions did not. So where did angels and demons come from? Not from one moment. Not from one author. Not from a secret meeting where someone invented the supernatural world. They came from a collision. From biblical messengers who carried divine speech. From throne visions and heavenly councils that imagined the unseen realm as ordered and populated. From adversary language that slowly became sharper. From Enochic writers who turned Genesis 6 into a cosmic explanation for violence. From traditions where the spirits of dead giants became hostile powers. From Dead Sea Scroll communities who prayed, argued, and lived as if light and darkness were already at war. From the New Testament world where exorcism and Satan language moved to the center of religious imagination. The result is the world many people think was always there. But history shows something more interesting. Angels and demons are not just supernatural characters, they are answers to old human questions. Who speaks for heaven? Why does evil feel organized? Why do bodies suffer? Why do violent people prosper? Is there a court above the courts of empire? Is the world broken beyond repair, or is judgment coming? That is why the tradition survived. It gave names to invisible pressure. The real origins of angels and demons are not a single origin story. They are a record of ancient people trying to map the boundary between heaven, earth, evil, and hope.